Hi everyone, welcome to the broadcast again. Kirsten Kloss here with netcastevent.com. And once again, I got Chris Hamilton in the studio. There's his ugly mug. Everyone say hi.
Hi everyone.
So today we have our guest Sue Hershkowitz Coore, and Sue is she's a sales coach. Is that correct, Sue?
That's true. Yes, sales trainer. Really, I do coaching, but
essentially today we're going to talk about her book, Power Sales Writing, and basically look at the topics of do the emails you send get the best results? Could they be more persuasive, concise, and engaging? And do they save you time or take up too much of it? Those are kind of the 3 pointers that we're going to address here today. But essentially, we're going to leverage her internationally recognized communication experience. So, Chris, I'm going to let Chris take it up from here. He's dove very deep into the book, and I'm sure he has tons of questions to ask. And if, of course, you do have questions to ask of Sue, please leave them in the question form located to the side of the broadcast, and we will definitely forward those to Sue after the broadcast. Chris, take it from there.
You bet. Thank you very much. And I am going to hold Sue's book up to make sure. Is it online? I'm trying to make sure. There we have. I've got a picture of it. So it's Power Sales Writing. It's the second expanded edition. How small was the first one? Pretty small then?
It's actually funny. It was a little bit smaller, but it's really important that it be the second edition, because the other one was written, I was still calling things electronic correspondence. so this one's better. It's
electronic correspondence. That was last year then, was it? It was the... They was doing it.
This one just came out September 9th. Yeah, of
excellent.
11.
The bottom part here though is using communications to turn prospects into clients. So that's what caught me when I was looking at this. And obviously, anyone who watches our show online realizes that we interview an awful lot of McGraw-Hill's authors, and they sent me the catalog. I looked at it, I thought this is awesome, and ended up getting you on the show, which I'm grateful for. First things before we get going is just how can people get a hold of you? We like to put that stuff up front just in case they want to book you. I know you do a lot of speaking and stuff. Website,
right?
Address, or phone number, or any way that they can get a hold of you.
Okay, thanks. So speakersue.com. If you want to email me directly, it's sue@speakersue.com. If you want to speak to Kathleen, it's Kathleen, spelled Kathleen at SpeakerSue. The number here is 1-480-575-9711. And Facebook. Okay, so
I see, Sue, that you have a good blog here. So people can also check out your blog at speakersue.com.
Hold on, she's on Facebook now. She's all excited.
Oh, way ahead.
Oh my goodness, this could take up the entire interview. There are so many things that I'm on. So essentially, SpeakerSue.
SpeakerSue, but they can find you on Facebook. Where SpeakerSue on Facebook.
Yeah, actually, SpeakerSue on Facebook it needs to be SpeakerSue HC for Hershkowitz Coore. It's a long story, but I set up my personal page as SpeakerSue. Don't even ask. So SpeakerSue HC is the business page. That'll be more interesting, though the other one could be more entertaining.
That's, what, I probably did the exact same thing as you. I got on Facebook, didn't understand it, just started pounding away, and next thing I know, I'm going like, where did that page go that I created for my business? Yep. I was a little confused with it. And the other thing too is you are joining us from the Scottsdale area, which obviously, as we were talking beforehand, I love Scottsdale. It is my second most favorite city in the world, right after Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. No, I'm joking. That's not my favorite city. But absolutely love that area. And lucky for you, it's probably nice and warm down there. I was talking to my father-in-law. He's down there today. He said it was like 85 a couple days ago or something like that.
Yeah, it is absolutely gorgeous. I've been out of town traveling, but right now I'm looking at a cloudless, blue, beautiful
see,
sky.
Lucky you. I get to look at Kirsten across the way from me, so that's the unfortunate part. As he goes, he just says, "Oh yeah, whatever." So I'll tell you what, Sue. Let's kind of jump into the book here. So I started reading the book a while back when we first booked the interview. Kind of leafed my way through it over a period of about 3 or 4 weeks, I think, and then really jumped into it the last couple of days, knowing that the interview was coming up, and it was great to go back in and just start understanding it. You have a whole philosophy about connecting with people via email, which obviously is one of the biggest communication pieces. I'm going to take social media out of the equation, but it's one of the bigger, more personal communication pieces, obviously, that people can leverage. But I'm assuming you wrote the book because people do it in the worst way possible. Fair assumption?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because I think that just in sales in general, people, a lot of people don't get it. They have such passion for their product or their service that that's where they put the emphasis. And in an email, in all communication, the emphasis has to be on the other person. So it's really a different way of communicating that message. So you're really focused on extending your hand and inviting the client to buy in email rather than trying to shove yourself on them. If you don't write quickly, clearly, concisely, and authentically, no one's even going to read your email. No one's going to read it.
Mark. And so the point number one is flip it around so it benefits them, or it shows them as a benefit, as opposed to, me, and here's what I do for you, right?
Exactly. And that's a huge, huge point. And people think that they're doing it. They think when they write something like, I would like to introduce myself, that they're actually writing for the reader. And that just cracks me up. There should never be an introductory letter that the other person doesn't care. It needs to be about them, the benefit to the customer, why they would care about
It's funny, you can actually go to almost any small business website and see the exact same thing as they speak about what we do for you as opposed to how you actually benefit from it. I find that rather humorous, actually.
Exactly. And then even to take that further, so most salespeople know that it's not a feature sell, but then they stop at the benefit sell. And what I want people to do is to take that even further and to make sure that it's an emotional sell. I want there to be what I call it in power sales writing is a delighter. So I want there to be something sweet at the end of the email and at the beginning as well, but at the end is really important so that you leave them with a vision of what their ultimate experience will be with you. And you can do all that in an email in 2 or 3 sentences. But if you don't get that focus, the feeling sense, if you don't become a virtual bridge in your email between the website and that customer, then you might as well not even email.
Excellent point on that one. Actually, it's great because it leads us into kind of part one and how you get started. And I kind of like the 3 things that you talk to specifically is the plan it, do it, check it. But specifically under the plan it part, you've got the process that you've laid out, which saves you literally 80% of your time, is what you're saying. And the 5-step plan. So I've got it here. Anyone who ever watches, when I hold the book up, I always have notes in here so I know exactly what page to go to and always put stuff on there. So today I didn't use Post-it notes. I actually have pieces of paper, Kirsten. If I could, it's on page 16 of your book. Just read it out here. It's putting planning into practice. And the 5 points you have are, why am I writing? Secondly, what do I want to say? Number 3, what do I want to accomplish? Number 4, what is the next step? That's your call to action, which I absolutely love, that very few people actually do. And then your last point, which was the delighter that you were talking about, is have I provided a reason why this person would be delighted to do what I ask or say? So that's your 5-step process, is it? That literally cuts out 80% of the time. So that's the planning part. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it. So as you mentioned, it's plan, do, check. So plan is the part that you just discussed. So knowing what you want as an outcome and knowing why the reader should actually care to read your message is that very first planning step. So that's an analytical step. Then after you think through what your result is and why they should want to read what you have to say, then you just write it. You just get it out of you. You just type it out on the screen without worrying if it flows, if it sounds perfect, if the grammar is correct, and all that stuff. So that's a creative step. And then the third step is another analytical step when you go back in and you check and you massage and you tweak and you make sure that it's proper before you send it out. So it's the 3-step process itself that will save up to 80% of the time that you spend writing. And I do have one caveat there. You don't save that time overnight, and that's the issue. A lot of people give up. it's a new way of writing, analytical, creative, analytical. It's a new way of thinking. So it's really important that you stick to it. It takes about 3 or 4 weeks before it absolutely becomes a part of you. And then you never, ever go back. Yeah, because you realize that if you can just take the 60 or 90 seconds to have a clear outcome in mind, then the rest of the email becomes easy to write. So it's the 3-step process that's really you need the whole thing to save the 80%.
It's interesting because I actually, as I was talking to you before we went live, I started leveraging it and using it, and I find it's kind of, and it's authentic, right? Because you're trying to talk to people in an authentic tone. Is the response rate you get back on this stuff is dramatically higher than what true. I saw before.
Actually, yeah.
Yes, and thank you for that. And not only do you get better response, which is, of course, the whole goal of writing, but you get people who actually write things like, wow, what a nice email. And so you're setting up a more likable relationship. And though we don't always hire the people that we like the best, because there are all sorts of other things, dynamics that go on, when somebody likes you, it's just easier for them to work with you. And that's what that also
Absolutely.
creates.
And I've seen it. I'm a convert. It works. So that's,
and
once again, I'll hold the book up. People, go buy the book.
And Chris was so excited, as in preparation for this, we always discuss the book just prior to the interview. And he was like all jazzed because we met a customer, was it yesterday? And he was like, oh, I am totally going to use all the pointers and focus on this client now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thank you because it really does work. I mean, it is just amazing. And it's amazing to me that people, without that plan, all they do is just start typing. And it would be like just getting in the car here in Scottsdale and saying, oh, you know what, I think I feel like driving to New York, and just going. I might eventually get there, but there's going to be a whole lot of mistakes and rambling patterns along the way. And in writing today, if you don't write it briefly, if you don't keep it concise, no one's going to follow your little ramble as you make your detours to get to where you want to get to.
Sue, I have a question. Do you notice that that since computers have come out and word processing, that perhaps this whole technology world where you can kind of write as you kind of want and then go back and edit on the fly, that this has changed the style of the way people craft letters, and perhaps that's part of the reason why people are kind of rambling on in their letters nowadays?
Interesting. I think people always rambled on, and I think that we had more time to accept the rambling. In fact, it was kind of the beauty, part of the beauty, when you'd have that mail moment and you would open up your mail and you could just take a breath and you could read something that would be interesting. And now we just need the information really quickly. I mean, how many emails do you have in your inbox at this moment? Yeah. And so what we need to do, we just don't want to go along that path any longer.
Right.
So,
gotcha. So part of it too is I'm looking at the check it part. That's obviously, before you hit send is the big part, is make sure that it's correct. And you do have an excellent example. And as you say, you've removed names to keep them innocent, I guess, or something. To protect the innocent, exactly. And it's on page 38 where you just at a high level, it's just basically 2 points. And I'll get into a couple of things here in a sec. But first of all, they do not capitalize your first name. And good thing they did actually spell your name Sue correctly, though. So that's okay. That's right. Yep. And it said thank you and then CCA registrar. And it's not even personalized. Right. So obviously, going through your process, planning it and everything like that, and you talk about putting a human face or an element to it and stuff, what are some of the biggest points that you see that people do incorrectly when they're trying to craft a message out against this? Like what would be kind of number 1, 2, or 3 as the worst things that you could do in crafting an email to somebody?
So this may sound like I'm kind of repeating what I just said, but 1, 2, and 3 would be self-focused, self-focused, self-focused. So that really is the biggest thing where people are writing about what interests them instead of what interests the buyer. So that really would be 1, 2, and 3. If I had to add other things, it would be length. Our ego drives the way that we write, and we think that the other person is going to be interested in what we have to say. We need to keep it tight. Now, there's a huge, huge difference between brief and blunt. I am a huge proponent of making sure that it's courteous and making sure that it extends your hand and invites the other person to buy. So that sometimes means putting in a few extra words. Only I want to keep it as concise as possible. And for me, my truth is that keeping it concise and brief is really honorable and respectful to the other human being. Because I know what they have going. If I think I'm busy, I better just honor them.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm smiling. Part of the thing is as obviously saving time is a great. Everyone wants to save time writing an email, and nailing it down to the way that you have it with the 5 kind of step plan with the 3 overarching and all that stuff is as I say, it works, and it's worked for me. So I'm actually excited when I do this sort of stuff and I see the results happening. When you start moving in, is now, part 2 of your book starts talking about the psychology of persuasive writing, getting kind of a core message down and putting some benefits around it. So now you're kind of flipping it and talking. What you're talking to is more, I believe, how you create an email such that it is specific to the intended person who's trying to get it. Is what kind of tips and tricks do you have as it relates to creating some of the persuasive messaging for people?
Okay. So first of all, leave out the part that they're not going to read anyway. So that's really my best tip. And really stay focused on the benefit to them, and stay focused on creating an experience for them. So, for instance, I might write to you something like, "You've made a great decision considering blah 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 for your blah blah blah." Because what I want to do is really help you to feel safe and smart making a selection. Now, I'm going to have to back that up, but by beginning with a more experiential type of statement, "You've made a great decision considering." You can feel confident your attendees will, whatever it is that is my truth, that you can feel confident about. When you can make a statement like that and then very, very quickly back it up, that will give you a stronger email, and it'll differentiate you from your competition. So the other thing is, and you nailed it already, about having an action step, having a clear action step, and not just an action step, but having an action step that they're going to want to take. So if my action step is something procedural for me, there's no motivation for you to take it. For instance, if I say something like, "I'll call you next Wednesday to review the details of this proposal," well, there's nothing motivational to me. I can review the details of the proposal by my own self. I don't need to hear your sales pitch. Only if you can flip that and you can say something like, "I'll call you next Wednesday to talk about how we can help you, or how your meeting can be the best ever." Now, that gives me a much more persuasive message, so that I'll actually take your phone call. Now, one other thing on that. And notice, please, that I said I'll call you next Wednesday. Now, I could have said next or Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, but I no longer recommend that a solicitation call, which is, in this example, what we're doing, say, "I'll call you Wednesday at 10. If I'm making a solicitation call, not a conference call, of course, that's something different. You're probably not waiting by the phone with bated breath. Okay, 9:59, that salesperson is going to call now. And you only have 60 seconds to get it right. And here's my truth, I'm not that good. What if I get a call at 5 minutes to 10, and it's someone who's interested in booking me, for instance? What do? Get off the phone with them and say, "Oh, sorry, no one's really expecting my call, but I have to ditch you." And so and if we don't call it exactly 10, then what do? We get on the phone with an apology. "I'm so sorry I'm late," and that's a very weak way to start this conversation. So instead, I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to give yourself a swath of time in which you can be right. So I prefer to say Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, or even in some instances, just Wednesday, so that people know that you're going to call. You do call on Wednesday. You show your responsiveness. You build in that you're paying attention to detail, and you're right. You're not missing by 60 seconds or whatever.
Gotcha. Well, one of the other things that I'm looking at here is that as you're creating this, persuasive messages, everything like that. I'm looking at a page in the book, page 59. Once again, holding the book up, guys, so you can see it. Okay. Influence with beneficial outcomes. So there's another thing that I think tons of people. You got the call to action, but also the WIFM, right? What's in it for me, and not really being able to explain to somebody what it is how they're going to benefit, or why they're going to benefit, or why they would even look at it. So being concise, having a plan, but also having the beneficial outcomes. What's your take on trying to push that issue with people?
Oh, absolutely. That's the only issue that should be. Email is really for information. It's not so much for communication, and that freaks a lot of people out. So what I want to use my email for is, usually when I'm selling, I want to pique their interest enough so they'll actually take my phone call. See, a lot of people have forgotten that our smartphones, you know what, they also have a phone part to them. And we need to use them, because even if we don't actually speak to the other human being, we want people to hear us. We want them to hear our passion for their success. We want them to know that we really care about them, that we're not calling to sell, to push ourselves on them. We're calling to help them have a better outcome. And so even if they blow us off and don't take that phone call, if they can hear that truth, then maybe they'll pay a little bit more attention to our next email. Maybe they'll even call us back or take our next phone call. So when I'm writing emails, most often I'm writing to get them excited. I'm writing to help them to feel safe and smart, making a selection of me, and I'm writing to let them know that I will be calling for them, not for my own self, to see if this is a great match for their next meeting, to ensure that their people leave raving about their selection or whatever it is that I'm trying to sell.
Interesting. It's big part that people miss in there. Question for you. I'm looking. It's one of the things I wrote down last night when I was looking here is you have the 5-step plan. One thing that I didn't see in there that a lot of people actually stress is, what's your opinion on putting a PS in an email?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I just got asked that last week, and I haven't been asked that for years and years. So a PS is an old school strategy, and the PS would be the part that in the day that people would actually read first. So they would read the dear so-and-so, and then they would go to PS. And if the PS was intriguing enough, that would then cause them to go back to read the beginning of the message. For me now, it shows a lack of organizational skills. So it's like, oh, I just remembered this. No, not so much. You should have remembered that to begin with, which is part of planning. If that PS is important, then you entice me with that important part right at the beginning of that email. So I really feel like that's just an old school strategy that no longer is going to be helpful to people. Now, one thing though, once we have a relationship with people, they forgive a lot. Some people listening, and because I can see you, I think you must remember Johnny Carson.
What? Who?
So we're
I think she's calling me old. Hey, I'll let it be. I'm only 22, you know.
I remember Johnny Carson really well. And Johnny Carson said something that I thought was so brilliant, and I've lived by this. He said, once people love you, you can get away with murder. And that's true in email too. Once people like you, you can break all the rules. You can go for the PS. You can do all sorts of things once they like you. But again, another caveat, and that is that the person you're directly communicating to, that person may love you, and we don't know who they're forwarding that message to. They may have a different agenda. So we always need to represent ourselves professionally. We can't ever forget that there are other readers in the path. So I don't know how I got there.
That's
but
okay. My take on the PS is it probably works well on a letter if you got a piece of paper that, your eye's drawn towards it. But the same thing, if you open up an email, eyes aren't really drawn to the bottom of that email because it's below the fold, may not get seen type thing, which actually leads to my next point, which is if there's no PS, then obviously that subject line has to be as catchy as possible.
Interesting. I'll wait.
Well, I was just going to say, what's your take on creating a compelling? Well, I guess this is going to be kind of a how long's a piece of string, right? Because there's different scenarios. If you know someone, or if you do this or you do that. But let's put it in the scenario where you're contacting someone kind of for the first time. How do you entice them to look at your email? Because if it's like me, I get like up to 1,000 emails a day.
Okay, good. And thank you for that, Chris, because here's my truth on this. I don't teach people to go for catchy. Excuse me, compelling would be nice. And for me, compelling is that it needs to be truthful. It needs to be authentic. It has to be to the point, a truthful summary of what that email is about. So for instance, if I'm writing an email, let's say that I want to get a phone call with somebody. I know that they have a meeting coming up, and so I want to speak to them. My subject line actually might be action request : phone call Wednesday morning. Because I want to be truthful. It is so, so important to be relevant, which we've talked about a lot, and to be transparent and authentic. And so my subject line really, really needs to be an accurate reflection of what that email is about. And that brings up another point. The the subject lines have to change. We can't keep the same subject line through the life of the email. Drives people crazy. It's always the subject. The subject line gives the reader a clue what that email is about.
I always love when someone goes off on a tangent and starts talking about something different, and you're looking at that subject line and you're going like, what are you talking about now? It's
right. And really, if I might add, what are you talking about, and why are you talking to me?
Yeah, or else when people CC on everything. Anyway, I won't go into that. That's a whole different world. One of the things that you brought up front is writing as an empathetic person. It's kind of as putting some empathy or whatever into that letter, or connecting with them personally and stuff. We had Don Brown and Bill Hawkins on. They wrote. Oh my goodness, I'm getting old because my memory is failing me here. Looking at the bookshelf here, the what got you here in sales, or what got you here won't get you there in sales. And one of the things that they were talking about is that specifically over the last kind of 20 years or 30 years, empathy has kind of waned, and people are more abrupt and to the point. Is part of what you're talking about when you're putting in that personal touch to people? Is it to build that personal brand, one-on-one type thing, build that empathy, or anything like that? Is that kind of is that? I'm sure that has a huge factor in getting stuff open as well, right?
As long as it's real. So I have maybe a different take on empathy. Empathy really.
I'm still there. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. So empathy has to be truthful. So the example I'm going to give you is quite dramatic, and it's because everybody will get it really quickly. When I lost my daddy 14 years ago, and somebody with two parents would come up to me and say to me, "I understand how you feel." I mean, even now it gives me goosebumps. It's just not true. But what we do is that we pretend, and as salespeople, it comes off really cheesy and inauthentic. I don't really understand what you're going through. Like yesterday, I was working with a hotel company, working with their sales teams, and I was explaining that when a desk clerk says to somebody who's checking in at 2 in the morning because they misconnected on their plane, and now that person is being walked to another hotel, and the desk clerk says to them, "Oh, I understand." No, they don't. We just don't. So empathy has to be real. In the cases I'm giving you, in that case, it could be, I can't even imagine what you're going through. Or from a business perspective, I can't even imagine how busy you must be. And then you move forward. So I think that there are two issues. One is empathy has to be real. It has to be truthful. And the second thing is that, yes, we do need to keep it brief, and it has to be courteous. So we're not looking, the person who can write 3 words, yes, fine, is not going to be a good email writer. The fact that they're efficient has no resemblance to any effectiveness, because that's what we're looking for, effective. And when it comes to sales, effective means that you've enticed somebody else to be interested in buying your product or closing a sale.
Gotcha. Sorry, I'm looking at the book again here because I was intrigued by the one section about the being likable to win business. We had another author on here, Dave Kirpin, who's written a book called Likeable. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Dave's also a McGraw-Hill author. We all McGraw-Hill. Yeah. We're McGraw. We cut us. We bleed McGraw-Hill. But his.
Can't mention my Prentice Hall book. Does that mean I can't?
No, go ahead. You know what? Because we don't get paid. Hold it up. Tell us more about that book. We can get off on this. As I told you before, we can go off on tangents if you want.
No problem.
How to say it to sell it. There you go. So this one has a little bit of email in it, a little bit of email. I feel like Vanna. A little bit of email and presentation skills and prospecting. So it's communication, presenting, and emailing. So it's kind of like the whole thing.
Excellent. That's a plug for your other book there. The actually, it's a good part to bring it up is a lot of this stuff in the book here is also talking about how do you prospect or approach people kind of for the first time. You give several different scenarios here. So let's say, so I'm not a big fan of just approaching somebody out of the blue and just sending them an email because they are because you found an email address so you have no connection with them, right? So first of all, that's canned spam. You can't do that sort of stuff, obviously. I don't know. What's your take on that? Would you say you could do something like that? I'm not trying to get you in trouble with lawyers or anything for the law. So,
well, as long as you have an authentic touch point, then I believe that you can do it. You just need to state that touch point. So let's say that I have I bought a list and I'm just emailing off of that list. So what would be my truth? Your name was given to me because you host radio broadcasts and are looking for speakers who will engage your audiences. So that would be my first line. That would be my truth. So it would be, hi, Chris, and then it would be, your name was given to me, because it was. I mean, it's true that I bought it, so maybe there's a little bit of slime there. And I really, really don't want it to be slimy. I want to speak my truth as I want to speak my truth. Your name was given to me. Here it is. Your name, because you, and then go to a benefit. So I do believe that in almost every case, if I'm prospecting through any sort of list, I can just tell people why they're on that list. So if I sell coffee cups, your name was given to me because, and then why? Because you purchase coffee cups. Because you purchase coffee cups. Period. If you're looking for, and then I'm going to go into an experience and benefit.
So so obviously it is that approach side, but now let's just say, and there's a lot of people out there still, they obviously, the book wants people to use email to contact these people for the first time. Let's use it as an example, because there's a lot of people that don't want to pick up the phone and make a cold call, for example, right? Let's use it as as a complete unwarm lead. It's just a name you got off the list. Same scenario, using your 5 examples. Let's just simply say you're trying to just book a meeting with someone, because that's a lot of salespeople, and we have a lot of people that watch this that are sales related. How would you go about just laying that out, just a very high level? How would you lay out, how do I book a meeting with someone? And let's just say you're trying to sell them a, I don't know, brand new set of Ginsu knives.
Okay. So selling Ginsu knives. So why am I writing? I'm writing to get them excited about how easily they will be able to cut their fish. Sorry, I don't eat meat. Okay, so I'm writing to get them excited about how beautiful their salads will look, or how their fish will just slice so lovely, or whatever it happens to be. That would be why I'm writing. Then what do I want to say? You can depend on Ginsu knives to make your dinners easier and easier to clean up. I don't know. I'm making this up. Those are Ginsu knives. Then what do I want to accomplish? The third question, I want to persuade them to take my call when I do call on Tuesday. Or maybe what I want to do is persuade them to email me back with a time that's convenient for them to talk. Or maybe I want them to persuade them to buy the Ginsu knife in this email. I just need to know what I want before I begin to write, because that will change how I'm writing it. And then what's the next step? Well, it depends what I want to accomplish. So the next step, or the action, would either be that I call them Tuesday, they email me back, or they sign the little form with their credit card and send it back. And then what would be their delighter? You can feel confident that your meals will look and taste delicious with a Ginsu knife. And then I would just write the email. Wait until what?
I'm not. I'm just looking at Kirsten. I go, I'm going to start selling Ginsu knives, I think. I got the whole email now. I got it down.
Okay, so let me ask you. I'm going to flip this. How would you begin that?
Oh,
how are you going to begin that email, knowing that your point is to get her excited about how easy and delicious her meals will be, how great a cook she'll look?
To conserve time, I do it exactly the same way you did it. You know what? It takes a while, and once again, I would have to sit back and because I'm in kindergarten in the school of Sue Hershkowitz Coore on trying to figure this out. But I guess I would the way I've been using this, I look at it and I just say, In fact, I write down the 5 points that you have, and I go, okay, what would it say? What would he do? What would he want? And all stuff, and I put it in that perspective. So, I'm not trying to weasel my way out of it, but that's the process as a new person looking at it, how I looked at it, right? Which could be helpful to people here because of the fact that I'm giving away my little secret is that I write down the things that you ask. And I put it in, and then also actually as you read through the book, you elaborate more and more on it, right? So you start, when you say connecting the dots and pulling the sales messaging together and everything.
And you have to understand the needs of the client. You have to understand the client somewhat, unless you're just doing a generic blast, right?
Yeah. And you know what, Kirsten? For me, we if we're selling, we do know something generically about the clients. Now, ideally, you are so right that the more that we know about the client, the better that we're going to email, the better the whole communication is going to be. Only I know, like in my business as a speaker, so I work with hotel companies a lot. Let's just use them because I worked there yesterday. So if I'm having a sales meeting, if I'm a VP of sales and I'm having a sales meeting at a hotel, what do I want to achieve? What I want to achieve is to get people who are excited and ready to sell my product. That's what I want them. That's why I'm bringing them to this hotel. So I know that generically. Now, with that VP of sales, might she want something else? Yes, she very well might. Only generically, I know that I have some benefit to her when I'm selling that hotel. So now one other thing to build off of what you said, Kirsten, that the first two questions, or sorry, it was you, Chris, the first two questions actually deal with a customer. So I want you thinking about it as customer, customer, me. So the why am I writing has everything to do with the customer. What do I want to say? Everything to do with the customer. And then what do I want to accomplish? Then I start thinking about my own self. So it's a very clear process. Building on, and thank you for explaining how you handle this as a new to these techniques, because I think that's really important for people who are just wanting to really elevate the way that they write.
The other thing, Sue, is I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer too, right? So
pardon the pun.
Well, thank you for sharing.
And you know, I mean, maybe this is old school, but you know, we always hear this phrase, you know, always identify the pain and address the pain. And I even take it one step further, and what you almost want to do is create some kind of a dialogue that almost puts gasoline on the fire of the person's pain so that you can really sensitize them to it. Is that partly kind of what you're getting at? Is like, that's that empathy kind of, let's discuss this quickly, and then because I've listened to your pain kind of scenario? Or is that not really a part of this new style of writing?
Well, yes and no. And now I don't want to sound like I'm weaseling. I do know you're absolutely right in that we do want to bring to their attention what they will miss out on if they don't choose what we have to sell. We do. And with that said, today, the more that we can help people to feel safe and smart about selecting us, the more likely they'll be to select us. So it's a very, very fine line. And you're right. When we say something like, you can feel confident your meeting will be a success at wherever, what we're implying is if they make another choice, they may not feel so confident that it's going to be that successful. So in that way, it's very much speaking to what you just brought up. And again, for me, it's always extending your hand and inviting them to buy.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so being softer in that approach.
Yes, I love that. That really is what it is. And that's not a gender thing. That really is a today thing. Because, I mean, there has to be this authenticity. There has to be. I mean, that's why TripAdvisor is doing so well. Because it took what salespeople were cheesy and not necessarily truthful, and TripAdvisor saying, nah, not anymore. So if we can change the way that we sell, and we can really open our hand and be transparent and authentic and relevant, then we connect much more easily. And this is really, really important in email, because in email, it's just boop, a nanosecond, and your email is history, even if you took 2 hours to write it.
That's it. So you actually, building on that, one of the things that you brought up in the book that I thought was interesting was how to follow up when you're ignored. And obviously, I mean, that happens to everybody, right? I like the advice, but I'd like you to talk a little bit more about kind of, what do you do when you're actually ignored? How do you create a process, or how do you put something in place so that you increase your likelihood of actually getting an email open and follow up?
Okay, thank you. Well, for me, it's two things. One is speaking my truth, and the other is helping them to feel safe and smart. So one might be, and I guess a third thing, and that is remembering why I'm writing. And it's not about me and my need to hear from them. It's about them and where they are in making a successful decision. And so when I would be writing that email, it would have to do with trying to help them feel comfortable taking my next phone call. They're ignoring me. I need to re-excite them. I need to pique their interest enough in what they can achieve, what they can accomplish, what success they can enjoy by actually talking to me, or at least responding to me. The other thing is, and this can sound a little bit manipulative, so I just want to be really careful. I think I go into it a little bit more in the book than we'll have time for today. If I haven't heard from somebody, let's say that they've been interested in booking me, and then they just fall off the screen. They don't respond. Well, for me, you know what? That means that I or someone in my office, that we've done something wrong. In some way, we have not engaged with them. In some way, we haven't connected with them. And in fact, in some way, maybe we've really pissed them off. And so I want to take that responsibility. I want to say something like, asking them the truth. I might even say something like, I'm sorry if we have pestered you. And then I'm going to ask them my truthful question. And may I continue to contact you? I promise we won't call again for 3 months, or something like that. And then they'll write back. You know what? In all the times that I've done that, I've only received one email, where someone has said, please do not call anymore. Every other person has said, oh, no, I've just been busy. I'm so sorry. I really appreciate this. I didn't want to make you. It's just amazing when you speak your truth, when it really is truthful.
Yeah, it's actually, you know what, I was just thinking about that, where it's like, sorry if we're pestering, blah, blah, blah. I could see someone changing that psychology, where someone goes, no, wait a sec. No, I'm just busy, right? You're not bugging me. Exactly. Believe me, I like you.
Right. Right, and so that kind of bonds you. Not kind of, it does bond you. You realize that they're busy. It wasn't anything personal. They might still be interested, or maybe at this time in their lives they're not interested. Okay, fine. As long as you can maintain the relationship, you're not cold calling. You are warm calling, and it makes life easier.
Well,
and
I guess
sweeter.
the other thing too is people that just don't want to do anything with you until you take you off their list. Those are the people you really want to be doing business with. There's a whole bunch of other people that are.
Exactly. Thank you for shopping Kmart. Next, if somebody doesn't want to hear from me, the last thing that I want to do is to be bugging them.
And don't waste your time on that. Essentially, they're not in. There's some people that are in a mode of transition, and there's some people that aren't. Some people want to embrace change, and some people don't. And you have to vet that process. That's a great way of doing that, isn't it?
Right. And one other thing for me is so much, I really want to honor and respect them. So, yeah, it is an absolute waste of my time. That's true. And more than anything, I want them to know that I want to honor and respect their time. And the last thing that I'm going to do is annoy them. Also, 6 degrees of separation, very small world. All I'm trying to do is build my reputation and my brand all the time. And so if I'm bugging this person, who knows who he or she is going to know? So with LinkedIn today, all I want to do is make life easier for the other human being. And again, this may sound a little wooey, but what we give out, we get back. And the more that I can honor them, the more that they're going to honor me. Doesn't mean I'm always going to book business. That would be berserk. But it does mean I'm going to build friends. And that's what counts.
One of the things that we talked about earlier, and in reading the book, it was like just boom, the light bulb went off, right? Is a huge area. So I'm actually helping you with something that you might be able to do on this one. Is there are so many people out there that do email marketing. And you and I, we were discussing a bit up front. And after looking at the book, I realized that, with email marketing, I get someone, they come to a landing page, they take a piece of information, and then I put a kind of a flow behind the scene with a whole bunch of emails. After looking and seeing what you have, I'm like, I've completely put this whole path in place here, and it's wrong, right? And there's a huge opportunity out there for people. So I'm plugging this now because we do get a lot of entrepreneurs and marketers that come out. So once again, here's the book. We're holding it up. You can get it, and Sue's holding up too. And my take on this is, if you just leverage what the process that you've put in place here and allow people to put that into a drip campaign, I mean, it becomes very personable, right? And people will probably respond to you, even though it's an automated drip that you're putting in place with these things.
Yeah, it is true, Chris. And again, I'm so sorry to be such a stickler for this. It's even the term drip. I don't want you to think of it and sorry for this. For me, it's not a drip, because a drip is something that's annoying. A drip for me is something that I want to turn off, shut up, shut down, get out of my life. I'm calling a plumber. And so what I want you to think about it really, and again, is you may think this is like too good. It's a love campaign. That really is what it is. You're building their feelings for your service or product all along. So it's not, I try to get people to change your words and you know this, and change your world. And these little nuances, even like using a word like, and I go into this in the book as well, a word like concern, to say, if you have any questions or concerns, please call me. As soon as you use the word concerns, you've indicated seed of doubt. I wonder what I should be looking for. I wonder what's wrong here. So there are so many of those little words. Sometimes we don't even know why we turn people off. We don't even know. We've planned our message. It's quick, it's clear, it's respectful of their time, but the message itself is wrong. We have to worry about content and intent, and the words that we use can destroy our intent. There was research recently, out of Syracuse University, Whitman School of Management, that found that when we write an email that we intend to be positive, that we can have the expectation that the reader will perceive it as neutral. That part isn't so bad, but wait, when we write an email with our intention for it to be neutral, we can expect our reader to perceive it negative. So we really need to pay attention to the words that we use. We need to be sure that those words are, I'm not talking lollipop land words, I'm talking about words that are positive and really stay focused on their success. And sorry.
Yeah, no, I can tell you're just really mellow on this one. It's not even igniting a fire in you.
But but that's very interesting, because one never thinks about that. One always thinks, I want to put myself in the position of the person who's reading it. But in reality, what you're saying is everyone's processing that information, and the lowest common denominator is they drop it down a notch. They're always going to be a little bit skeptical, right?
Yes, well, because we don't give people the benefit of the doubt, and that this also has something to do with our ego, that we think that we're writing a really good email. But we don't give people the benefit of the doubt. When we write emails, we are hearing the words in our own heads. Sometimes, if you work in an office, you can hear people in the other cube, and they're actually, you can hear the way that they're emphasizing the words. But the other person, not so much. It's just words on a screen. Oh, and it's words on a screen in 1 out of 300 emails. So they're just zipping through it. And we even do this with good friends. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever done this, but you have somebody who you really like, and you get an email from them, and just for a moment, you kind of say, what's wrong with him today, right? I mean, because it's just that you just wonder why they were so rust with you or something. And so if that's with somebody you know well, think about what happens when you think the other person has an ulterior motive, and that is to sell you on something that you may or may not have a need for.
Unfortunately, email takes out that audio-visual component or the
eye contact.
And that's really a lot where that is. It can be absolutely misconstrued, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Just being cognizant of the time, because I know we've got an hour here. I'm going to plant a bug in your ear. I swear, if you went to all these big email suppliers like AWeber, MailChimp, and iContact and Constant Contact, and offered a seminar for them, I think those guys would love it, because you know what? I'm sure they have. That's the sort of stuff they would love to put out to out to their
followers,
their
their
subscribers or clients. Yeah. I mean, it's just how to put a proper email campaign together and make it personable and stuff. The one thing exactly. Like I say, all mine are wrong. I'm going back and rewriting everything, I think. The one thing that's okay. You know what? When I'm reading it, I always get the wheels spinning when I look at this stuff.
I love that.
It's a great book. The one thing that we always end with, and or try to, at least if I remember to ask people this one, is what is the number one best piece of advice that you can give to someone as it relates to what you wrote in the book? And I know you've gone over and over and over. It's going to sound like we're beating a dead horse, but just if there's one thing that someone could take away from the book, and if you want to plug 2 or 3, that's fine. We're cool with that. But if you want one thing that people could take away from this book, what would it be?
Okay. So it's like all coming out of my mouth at one time. Change your passion from your product to your person. So really make sure that you write to help them feel safe and smart about making the selection for what you have to sell. And then because you're allowing me 2 or 3, you have to keep it concise. You have to think through what you want before you begin to write so that you can keep it clear and quick and concise to be honorable and respectful to them. There.
Hey, by the way, I saw one of the questions come up here. What's your take on putting bullet points in an email?
Yeah, bullet points are fine, and because readers, we're scrolling down as we read, so bullet points are okay. And how long is the email? Really, email shouldn't be more than 5 sentences. I mean, that's it. Now, if somebody is expecting information, that's a whole different thing. Only if you're just writing to them because you want information or you want to relay information, sorry, but they're just not that interested. So, yes, I do like bullet points because people aren't reading, and they may actually see your bullet points, and I want you to rethink the strategy. Would it be better to write a shorter, more concise email and actually get them to show some interest and then have them really read your follow-up email?
I got a question here too. It kind of connects to this actually.
Is this a viewer question?
No, it's just off the website. Do people process in 3s?
Do people process in 3s? There is some research that they do, red, white, and blue, yellow, green, and so they do. Only what happens then is that sometimes it's overkill. An email, again, and it is sounding like a broken record, that we need to keep it concise. Why would I say to you, by using this product, you can have a seamless, thoughtful, memorable event, when I know that the reason that most people buy this product is because they want a memorable event. I have plenty of time to tell you the other information. So I really want you to hone your message and get it as brief as possible. So the answer to that is yes, people do process in 3s, and today, much more important is the value of time. So if you can say it in 1 word rather than 3s, you're going to be better off.
Well, I think the one thing that I got to say is I'm a convert. I love it. I'm holding the book up again. So there we go. Look at that.
There you go, Chris. He's going to go. I tell you, he's going to be running around the city and street corners trying to sell your book for you.
Absolutely. Actually, you know what? It's so
Chris is all about email marketing. I mean, this is what he talks about a lot. So it definitely connects to your writings there. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I'm holding the book up one more time. So Power Sales Writing. Sue, how do people get a hold of you again? Just phone number, email, website, so on and so forth.
I've got the website up, speakersue.com.
Oh, do you? Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you. And Sue at speakersue.com, and the phone number in Arizona is 1-480-575-9711. And I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn.
Well connected.
You're like everywhere. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be tweeting about our show.
Oh, awesome. Please do. Unfortunately, because I get so into the interviews, I can't actually tweet them out beforehand. But a lot of times I actually will tweet stuff just prior to it coming up and stuff.
Yeah, well, the live events, but the recorded events we do syndicate out, so we'll let people know about it for sure.
So the one thing I want to finish this off with is excellent interview, awesome information. Thank you very much, Sue. And we would love to have you on any other time. In fact, if you want to talk about your other book at some point in time in the future, even though it's an older one, we're more than happy to do it. We're not tied just to McGraw-Hill.
But
They're great people.
publisher.
They're actually, it's a long story. I won't get into it, but it's funny how they actually got a hold of me and I almost blew them off. So it's, but it's actually turned out to be an awesome opportunity for us, right?
I hope it wasn't.
No, well, actually, it was. It was. You know what? Actually, good. I'm going to tell the story. I'll tell the story. And I know you got to get running, but I will tell you the story.
You're roasting.
I'm not roasting, but it was funny because I got this email, and like I said, I get sometimes up to 1,000 emails a day, and it's like delete, clean, clear, whatever. And I looked at it, I thought it was spam, so I pitched it out, and I just read kind of the first part, and then I thought, oh, wait a sec, they're trying to.
Exactly. Wait. See, exactly.
No, go,
sorry,
please rant. I'm totally cool with that.
That's it. Go on.
And then, but I saw free books, and I go, wait a sec, I like free books. That's a good something. Free's good, and so I went back and I started reading it, and realized it was actually from McGraw Hill. I didn't realize it was from McGraw Hill. Had I known it was from McGraw Hill, I would have said awesome, and it said, hey, look, we just we want to offer you up some books so you can read them. And it was so interesting because I had deleted it, and it was like 5-6 seconds later, it just dawned on me. I go, wait a second, no, go take a look at that again. And you know what? It has turned into a phenomenal relationship where we interview authors all the time because of McGraw Hill. Yeah. And it's a
great source of content.
It is. It's a great source of content. Now they found me because apparently I'm on the who's who of media in Canada. And I had no idea. So there me are. I'm stroking my ego there, eh?
He's all over that, What about look at me?
I do that because Kirsten's not on it, but Kirsten's probably on better lists than who's who in media Canada. There's only like 3 of us, I think.
But most important for any of our viewers is that those questions that you post will be forwarded to Sue. So they'll go to Sue, and she can address them and connect with you directly. We do forward all of those emails. We don't hoard them or anything like that.
And go to Speaker Sue's site. I'm looking at it right now. You got a whole bunch. You got tips on here. Book you for sessions.
Yep, absolutely. And please share this event. Share with anybody that you know. If you know anybody that struggles with constructing effective emails, letters, or any form of communication, verbiage over text, this is a good source, very good source for the book. And the book can be purchased below this broadcast as well. So great.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Sue. Greatly appreciate it. Stay on for a couple of secs here. Thanks.
Okay, all right, thanks.